Hello. Still, I don't know. When I get sick, everything just lingers now. Don't turn 30. 30. I'm gonna be 35 in December. I don't know. Instead of not turning 30, what I was gonna say, because you can't read my mind, was that I'm still a little bit sick, but I feel like I'm over it, and I keep feeling like I'm over it, and then it just kind of lingers, and then I'll have a coughing fit, and it's like, okay, I'm not quite over this yet. But I get to like 90% pretty quickly. I probably get to like 75% pretty quickly within a couple days, and then it just kind of hangs out, and then it makes it to 80, and then 90, and then it just goes 91, 92, 93. So it just lingers right at that end point. And that might be, now that I think about it, my fault for not treating it more seriously, because I was NyQuiling myself when I got it. So maybe I just need to be tougher on it. Right, so yeah, I said don't turn 30, but I've been thinking about how my 30s have been pretty positive so far. Like I said, not even halfway through yet, but it just bounces forever. Just chill out, alright? This road is not particularly smooth. But like, my 30s have been a time, or at least these few years, have been a time of real self-discovery, I guess. I don't know, learning to live with myself or understand myself. And the way I described it to my wife was like understanding my body and what it's trying to tell me, like food-wise and emotion-wise and all that stuff. And part of that's probably JBP, but I've been picking up all kinds of other sources for that stuff. He's just the biggest one. But that's all like psychological stuff. That's stuff you can start now, no matter how old you are. Figuring out what makes you tick. And instead of accepting the things that you've been told about how you work or how you should work, by just testing stuff out. You know, question everything. Even question whether or not you should question everything. I mean, that's the root of all this, is the understanding that ideal in reality. Ideal in truth. And the truth is what we can measure and what we can test. And that's why I'm a Christian. That's why I believe there's a God. But instead of saying should, really, I should do this. I should be different. I could do that. Why don't I do this? Really breaking down that reasoning and understanding that there's some stuff you can't change, and I know this. There's some stuff I cannot change about myself. I would pay money to change some stuff about myself. It's just, I can't do it. And that was a revelation to myself and to my wife as well, to be able to tell her, look, this isn't changing. I would like very much for it to change, but it's not changing. And I'm very sorry, but this is the way I am. Either now or always have been. I don't know. Coffee with grass-fed butter blended in. No MCT oil or anything like that just yet. Very positive results. Been doing the 1 meal a day thing, with good results. Last time I weighed myself, which I don't weigh myself, like a long time ago, I was a long time ago, a few years ago, I was 245, and I've been on various, I don't want to call them diets, but just changing the way that I eat. Like this is part of it. Just like, hey, what happens if I do this? You know, what happens if I eat a diet high in saturated fats and salts? Why, you're not supposed to do that. Well, I need to cut some new holes in my belt. My pants are falling off. And I'm losing fat, not mass. Because I'm usually a pretty massive guy. Yeah, just breaking down this stuff. It's like, oh man, I had a I've been getting down on sugar for a while, and I'm like, I'm just gonna cut back on sugar. Just wherever there's an opportunity to have sugar, I'm just gonna try to bypass. And my wife used to make really good coffee with, you know, sugar and creamer and everything, and usually I just have it black. But I was like, you know what, let's do it. Today's a good day, make it with the sugar. And she made it, and it tasted delicious, and I was like, I felt terrible. I felt like depressed, like mentally terrible, not physically. I felt fine, but I just felt mentally just wasted, just destroyed. And I was like, what on earth happened to me today? Like you could almost measure it. It was just like, boop, just hit the floor. And I was thinking about it later that day, and I'm like, I didn't change anything, because I had leftovers. Like, I didn't change what I had eaten or anything like that. And I woke up in a good mood, so I knew it wasn't that. I'm like, something happened in this period. And then I was like, there's sugar in the coffee. It can't be that, can it? No. And but it was bad. It was really bad. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I couldn't stand it so much that I tried it again. I told my wife, like a few weeks later, I told her what had happened, and I'm like, maybe it was the sugar. So I told her a few weeks later, okay, do the sugar again. She's like, why? I'm like, because I'm a scientist. Because, and I showed her the XKCD comic, the difference between a scientist and a regular person. Science walks up to a button and pushes it and gets an electric shock. It parts ways from there, and it says normal person. Gosh, I sure won't do that again. And then it says scientist. I wonder if it does that every single time. So like, I wanted to know if it was the sugar, and I did it again, and it was not the sugar, because I didn't have the same reaction. So I don't know what was up with that. Maybe a combination of things. Especially with food, it's hard because you can't, like, some of this stuff is like a delayed release. It happens like 5 hours later or something. But yeah, the impact on energy and mood. And another channel that I've been liking a lot is called What I've Learned. It's a YouTube channel that talks a bit about diet science and brain science, and it's very interesting on how it affects productivity and mood and focus and stuff like that. Apparently it's a lot more intertwined with what we eat than we had previously understood. But I had just been doing 1 cup of coffee. I guess it's called intermittent fasting. It's just like 1 meal a day. I used to do 1 meal a day, and then my sister, who was like a semi-dietitian at that point and a personal fitness coach, was like, no, that's bad for your body. You can't do that. I was like, all right, I'll eat a big breakfast. And then I would eat a big breakfast, and then maybe and then probably have a bigger dinner. That's usually how it would work out. But whenever I would eat a big breakfast, I would be hungry for lunch. And then whenever I skipped breakfast, I wouldn't be hungry for lunch. So I don't know, everyone's different. But I was just doing like coffee. Like coffee in the morning, and then I would get a little hungry at lunch. Then around 2 or 3, I'd usually fall off the wagon, because I wasn't really focusing on it. Like, oh, I'll have a soda or something. I just need a little sugar punch to get me going. And I started avoiding the sugar, so I'm like, well, I'll have like a cheese stick or something a little bit more fatty. So what I've been doing now, coming full circle here, I guess, this is just coffee with butter blended into it, and it's grass-fed butter because of reasons, I guess. I don't know. I don't really like that margarine's just oil. It's kind of weird. But with this stuff, I don't get hungry at like 2 or 3. Now, honestly, when I get home, I still feel kind of a little full. And I know at that point that I'm not actually full. Well, maybe I'm not. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't know if I can just drink/eat this all day. But gains, bro. G-A-N-Z. Gains. Like I said, I didn't really weigh myself. Never really had a scale. But I knew my belt was getting smaller and I was having trouble carrying my gun more. So, like, I had to cinch the belt down more. But yeah, we just got a weight measurer thingy. Stand on, make your weight scale. We got a scale from a friend of ours who got a new one. And I weighed at like 224, which is, that's a lot of weight. A lot of weight lost. Like I said, I was 240, 245 for a long time. Years. And at that point I was working at Lexmark and they had like shipping scales there, like the giant ones. And it was on the way to the bathroom, so I would stop and weigh myself on the way to the bathroom. Just, I don't know. Because it was a thing to do. But yeah. So, high fat, high salt. Like the sugar thing, I was thinking about it and like, biblically there's no sugar in the Bible. Sugar is a processed thing. They take it out of another thing. And it's kind of meant to be ingested with other stuff, which is why juice seems weird. But salt is in the Bible. It talks about being the salt of the earth, and what good is salt that has lost its savor and all that stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm going all Bible here. Salt is fine. Sugar, though, is only covered in honey, and it talks about how honey is, if you're full, you don't even want honey. But, honey's not a thing. You're not just going to sit there and eat a plate of honey, which is basically what you do when you eat pretty much any food nowadays. The high fructose corn syrup is like subsidized sugar because all the... And my wife and I have been down. We're still a little bit of crunchy Californians going on here. But high fructose corn syrup is just like, hey, let's try to fast on that. And you could not. It was almost impossible. It was very difficult to find food that did not have it. Because sugar as processed is semi-seasonal. I think it's a commodity. So it's expensive to process and it's expensive to ship around. But high fructose corn syrup, well, corn is, Iowa caucus and all that. Corn gets subsidies and farm subsidies and all that, and you can turn all the corn into all the sugar and do it as much as you want and grow fields and fields and fields and fields and fields of it. Never-ending supply of sugar or fructose or whatever. So the FDA, no, it wasn't even the FDA. It was the Department of Agriculture. They did the food pyramid the first time. And surprise, the biggest thing to consume is corn. Bread and wheat and corn. And it, no fats, but lots of carbs. And here we are. Like, you look at pictures of the circus, the fattest man, like the world's fattest man at the circus freaks. And the dude's like 300 pounds, maybe? Like, what the heck changed? Like, this dude is trying to be excessively fat, and that's as fat as he got. And we have people that are just, like, hanging out, and they're, like, 500 pounds. It was the strangest thing to see someone who was wider than they were tall. It was, like... I was on a plane transfer in Atlanta. And I don't even know how to describe it. He was like as wide as a Honda Civic. I don't understand it. Like, if I drew that person, people would be like, what are you doing? This is insane. This is a cartoon character. Cut myself shaving twice. I was in a rush to get ready for church, but I did sing, and I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a coughing fit. I had one. You're just like thinking about it. I had one like after I got home, but still good. Good praise, good worship. Right. So I got the Oculus Go yesterday from a friend of mine as a gift. He's working on the project, and it's pretty neat. There's no drag when you swing your head around, and things look quite clear. I haven't gotten a chance to test the text clarity, which is my object, to be able to represent a VNC session on there with readable text and sufficient screen space to be quite useful. It's not on the shop there either, so I guess you download it separately or something. I don't know, I'll figure it out. Yeah, just like think about yourself as the project, or a project. Actually, it's probably one of the most important projects. Actually, it should be your only project. Working on yourself, being aware of yourself. There was a thing, and I think mindful, as crunchy as I am, which isn't that crunchy, but still pretty crunchy for Kentucky, the concept of mindfulness is ridiculous to me. It makes no sense. Like the description of it, when people try to define it, I just laugh. It makes no sense. But someone was talking about it was a TED Talk on mindfulness, and I picked up a few clips on it, and I figured I'd listen to it because it was kind of interesting. He was talking about quitting smoking, and his term was being mindful. He said not to quit smoking, but just be mindful of what's happening when you have a craving and when you're smoking. And it's really meant to bring, or the way he uses it, is bring mental and conscious awareness to an unconscious activity. I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of what I took away from it. The idea that some component self of your body is going, I want a cigarette, give me some nicotine, and you go, and that little component self of yours that has, it's a cyclops, it's only got one focus, and it goes, I have the thing, done. And meanwhile, your conscious brain kind of shuts off because you're like, I'm satiating this thing. But he says to remain conscious and remain aware of what you're doing and what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. And he said that the people wound up quitting smoking because when they were aware of what they were doing, they were very aware that, like, this smoking stinks and it tastes like garbage and I don't like it. And it makes me feel, it makes me feel bad and it smells bad and I don't like the outcome of it. So by just adding, more conscious awareness of this is the thing that's happening, and I kind of really don't like it, actually, or I'm just drawing attention to the negatives. I'm being aware of the negatives. Maybe that's what it is. Rather interesting. So when you get that craving, whatever it is, to be able to break it down and be like, what is this craving really about? When you think about the craving and imagine what it's about. I got one of these. I got 5 of these, actually. Oh, USB micro converters. Pretty interesting. Pretty useful. I'm seeing if it stays on here long enough for it to be useful. So yeah, think about yourself as the project. Work on yourself, improving yourself. Because it improves everything else, really. That's all I got. Seems disjointed.